Hello, my people. How are you? All right, so today's video, I will be sharing with you some of my favorite books of all time. And as you may know, if you followed me for a while, you know I'm into fiction, historical fiction, like that's my jam, right? So those are the books that I want to share with you guys. And these books, I read them a long time ago. So some of them I might have to read the synopsis because I cannot remember the story exactly because I'm in my mid 30s. I read these books maybe when I was young teen, young adult, in my mid 20s, so we'll see how it goes. But anyways, if you're interested, please stick with me and let's do this. All right, you guys, Jambo, Karibu, welcome to my channel. My name is Chilanda and this is Library Without Borders. Yo, do you know I am a four-lingual person? It means I speak 4 languages. Yeah, so I speak French, English, Swahili, and Chiluba. Chiluba is one of the 4 languages spoken in Congo. So if some of you have been following me, you've watched some of my videos, y'all know I speak a lot about Congo. And recently through this beautiful book, I discovered a little bit about the kingdom of Luba, which was one of the kingdom back in the 14th, 13th century back in Congo. And apparently, I am descendant of that kingdom. So, eek. Anyways, you guys, I just wanted to share a little bit of that. So, as I said, I have compiled a couple of books here. It's not like all of them, but it's some of them. And as I mentioned, these books stayed with me. And I wanted to share these books with you that were not part of the books that I've already talked about in my previous videos from last year or so far this year. And they're all books that I read when I was, as I said, in my 20s. Some of them go as far as like when I was a teenager, right? So without further ado, also, I forgot to mention some of these books I have not read. Okay, let me see. Maybe just one of them that I have not read, but all of them I've read. And the reason why I put it in this pile is because it's historical fiction and it's in my radar to read it. So if you guys read the book, hopefully you'll tell me what you thought. But if not, I hope to put it on your radar so that maybe we could, read it together. So without further ado, the first book that I want to share with you guys, I have not read it, but I loved the cover simply because these designs remind me of the African wrap clothing. So this design reminded me of it and I loved it. But it's called We Are All Birds of Uganda. Now, this book came to my attention when I was following this booktuber. And she talked about this book and I thought, the premise of this book was really interesting. It is by Hafsa Zayan. And what this book is about, it says, in 1960s Uganda, Hassan is struggling to run his family business following the sudden death of his wife. Just as he begins to see a way forward, a new regime seizes power and a wave of rising prejudice threatens to sweep everything away. Present-day London. Samir, a high-flying lawyer, thought he had it all, but he can't escape an overwhelming feeling of emptiness when tragedy calls him back home. Samir finds himself caught between a future he's always believed he wanted and a past he struggles to accept, a past he cannot ignore. And it says, moving between 2 continents over a troubled century, We Are All Birds of Uganda is an immensely resonant novel that explores racial tensions, generational divides, and what it means to find home. I mean, doesn't that interest you? I'm really intrigued. I want to get to this book, but when I think about all these books that I've set myself to read for the month of May and June, if any of you have read this book, please, jump in the comments, share your thoughts. If not, let me know if by reading the synopsis, if it's something that, will interest you. Next, it's this book by Zora Neale Hurston, Their Eyes Were Watching God. And I think this is an old edition. I mean, This book is old. I've had it like since I was in high school actually. And you know who gave me this book or introduced me to this book? It was my teacher. I was in grade 9 in high school, and she was the only black teacher in that high school. And I want to say hi, Miss Cadet, if you're ever watching me. But anyway, so she introduced me to this story, Their Eyes Were Watching God, and I loved it. Did I write something? Oh my gosh, she actually wrote my teacher. Oh my god, what did she say? This is my all-time favorite book. I can't tell what it is. A lot about myself while reading this book. I hope you too. I hope you do too. Enjoy it all. Enjoy it as much as I did. Cadet. Reading is a treasure that brings tremendous pleasure. That's from my teacher. Oh my god, I forgot she had signed it. But like, you guys, like I haven't taken a look at this book since, like I said, it's been years. Even when I moved out of my parents' house, you know, I usually brought the books with me, but I never really revisited them. I'm not one to reread books that I've already read, right? So I would just grab them and re-put them in my shelves, and you know, and I forgot that some of them were signed. And anyway, so this book is about, so it's fair and long-legged, independent, articulate Janie Crawford. She sets out to be her own person. No mean feat for a black woman in the 30s. Zora Neale Hurston's classic 1937 novel follows Janie from her nanny's plantation shack to Logan Hillick's farm, to all-black Eatonville, to the Everglades, and back to Eatonville, where she gathers in the great fish net of her life. Janie's quest for identity takes her on a journey during which she learns what love is, experiences life's joys and sorrows, and comes home to herself in peace. So, I mean, I'm not one to reread books because, like I said, I have way too many books to go through, but I might just be tempted to reread some of these and remember why they are my favorites. But anyways, you guys, so if any of you read the book, you know, show your love, let me know what you thought, and if you haven't, please pick it up. This is a classic. Next, this is a book I actually read, I think 2 years ago, The Vanishing Half by Britt Bennett. And I think I have another book by her. But this book, if I recall, is about two sisters. And there's one who's literally passing for white and one who's claiming her blackness. So, let's see. The Veen sisters will always be identical, but after growing up together in a small southern black community and running away at age 16, it's not just the shape of their daily lives that is different as adults. It's everything: their families, their community, their racial identities. Many years later, one sister lives with her black daughter in the same southern town she once tried to escape. The other secretly passes for white, and her white husband knows nothing of her past. Now it comes back to me. Yes, so what I remember with the one passing for white, I remember she married, this man that was white, and they're living like in a, white neighborhood and stuff like that. And I remember at some point, I think she's trying to going to work, or she was going shopping. And then she would see like black people, and they would stare at her. Like they would literally stare at her, and she'd be so scared because black folks can recognize, the black, they can see it if you're passing. And that was one thing that she had to live with. And she had her daughter, I think her daughter was into theater or something like that, and she had the bluest eyes, and they weren't really getting along. But at some point, the daughter meets with the sisters, like basically her aunt, daughter. And it's by coincidence because the black daughter of the sister was black, claiming her blackness, goes to the house of the sister was passing for white, I think, to serve food. She was like serving food and stuff like that. And I think there's a chance encounter between the two sisters. But anyways, it was such a fantastic story that it was my first time really reading about black people passing for white. So I really enjoyed the story. And as I said, this I read 2 years ago before I even started BookTube. So if y'all haven't picked this up, I suggest you pick it up. It's very, very interesting. I really enjoyed the story. I mean, I felt sad for the sister was passing for white because they do have a confrontation with the black sister. After reading a lot of books about black people during those time when you couldn't be black and safe, it's really easy for us to look at these people trying to pass for white and almost judge them like really, you know? But then none of us are living during that time. None of us really know, had we been put in certain situations that these people have had to go through and live through, would we, if some of us could pass, would we have chosen the path of the sister who's claiming her blackness, or the one who's trying to pass because she's trying to live her life, she's trying to enjoy her life, she's trying to be, you know, safe and just live, you know? So I don't know, it's pretty hard. Next book that I also read, and I feel like, I'm not sure if I came across it by myself or it was also suggested by my teacher, but it was The Secret Life of Bees by Sue Monk Kidd. And it's funny because I have two of her books here. Sue Monk Kidd, The Invention of Wings. Both books, fantastic books. The Secret Life of Bees, I think there's a movie with Queen Latifah and Fanny Danning and other recognizable actresses, and I really enjoyed this story as well. So, set in South Carolina in 1964, The Secret Life of Bees tells the story of Lily Owens, whose life has been shaped around the blurred memory of the afternoon her mother was killed. When Lily's fierce-hearted, black stand-in mother, Rosalind, insults three of the deepest racists in town, Lily decides to spring them both free. They escape to Tiburon, South Carolina, a town that holds the secret to her mother's past. Taken in by an eccentric trio of black beekeeping sisters, Lily is introduced to their mesmerizing world of bees and honey and the Black Madonna. This is a remarkable novel about divine female power, a story that women will share and pass on to their daughters for years to come. Yeah, I remember that. I remember the book, yes. I remember there's one of the characters who's she's not all there, and she played that role so beautifully. Remember Queen Latifah? Yes, she was a beekeeper, and they had this statue that they, I guess, prayed to. It's a very great story if you haven't read it, but if you have, you know, let me know what you thought of it. And also there's this story, as I said, I think this was story with, I think it was two sisters. Let's see. Yo, as I said, you know, I read these books like a long time ago, a long time ago. A triumphant story about the quest for freedom and empowerment. Sue Monk Kidd's third novel presents the extraordinary journeys of two unforgettable women. Hetty Handful Krimke, an urban slave in early 19th century Charleston, and Sarah the Grimke's idealistic daughter. Inspired in part by the historic figure of abolitionist and suffragette Sarah Grimke, Kidd's novel is set in motion on Sarah's 11th birthday, when she's given ownership of 10-year-old Handful. The Invention of Wings follows these two women over the next 35 years as both strive for lives of their own, dramatically shaping each other's destinies and forming a complex relationship marked by guilt, defiance, estrangement, and the uneasy ways of love. Now, one scene that I just remembered was at some point when Handful and Sarah, I think she's like outside of the room or she's gone somewhere, and Handful goes in her room because she has a bath and she can take a shower. And what happens? She goes into the tub and takes a shower, because believe it or not, they couldn't even give the slaves proper amenities for them to take a bath and shower. And I remember at some point the lady of the house would complain because I believe she was looking for one of the slaves, the mother of Handful, and she goes into her house, and I don't know what she's looking for, but in the scene that they depicted in the book, she covers her mouth because of the slave smell. And I believe her mom was either sickly or something was happening to her, and I guess she wanted to check on her to see, and she was going in there and she couldn't even stand the smell. All of that because they wouldn't even let them take care of themselves. Horrible. But anyways, yeah, so Sarah sees, she comes and she finds Handful in the tub, and they look at each other because she caught red-handed, and they just stare at each other. And that scene was really powerful because as a reader, you're reading that and you know how they treat slaves, and the fact that she was caught, you were wondering, would Sarako tell her parents so that Handful would be whipped? Again, fantastic book. And I think I actually have another book by Sue Monk that, hold on. Yes, you guys, so there it is. It's actually in my piles of books to read, but I have this other book by her, Sue Monk Kid, The Book of Longing. So I haven't yet read this book, but I'm hoping to get to her. This just tells you that I actually like this author's writing, like I enjoyed her writing. And I know today, how we talked about people appropriating themselves or telling someone else's story. So Sue Monk, she writes about slaves, like even blacks, and she has the accent, the lingo down. So I'm not sure how some of you guys will feel because she's obviously white. She's white, but I don't know. Like for me, I read this a long time ago before this whole talk of culture appropriation or writing someone else's story, or if it's your right to tell, someone else's story. I came before all of that was hot topic. So next we have Black Mamba Boy by Nadfa Muhammad. I read this book, man. Oh, this book was in my heart, but I can't tell you exactly. But I think it's a boy. I think he's born in Somalia during like some kind of war that's happening there. But let me just read you the synopsis, and a scene will probably come back to me. Yemen, 1935. So I was close. I said Somali, but Yemen. Jama is a market boy, a half-feral child, scavenging with his friends in the dusty streets of a great seaport. For him, life is a thrilling carnival, at least when he can fill his belly. But when his mother dies far too young, leaving him an amulet stuffed with just 100 rupees, Jama decides to embark on a search for his never-seen father. So begins Jama's extraordinary 1,000-mile journey on foot across an Africa torn asunder by the horrors of World War II and its painful wake. Oh, that's it, you guys. Black Mamba Boy is a beautifully rendered debut inspired by Muhammad's father's life. You guys need to read this book. Now I remember it's so sad what this boy had to go through. Oh my gosh. Y'all need to read this book. I think, in fact, when I was still on Facebook, I think I actually shared it on my Facebook page. That's how much this book marked me. Y'all know that I recently went to visit or see Lawrence Hill, right? The author of the Book of Negroes. This is a classic as well, right? And I have actually this book by him and this book by him, okay? Any Known Blood. And I think this is a story about a mixed couple, which I read, but I don't think it stayed with me. I think that's why it's not in my pile, but it was written by him. So I was like, okay, why not? But this story, again, y'all can tell that if it's not slave narrative, as you can tell, there is some common topics found in all these books that I'm presenting to you. If it's not slave narrative, it's a story that's deeply moving, that's about the struggles, mostly struggles of Black people. Now that I'm thinking about it, it's really all about Black people, if not in Africa, around the world, So just to tell you that I started this journey of reading about Blacks around the world a long time ago, and I feel like I'm just drawn to those stories. They're really compelling, and for me, I'm always so shocked to hear that there are actually human beings that looked like me, that one would be killed because of their skin color, two that were enslaved, three that were stolen. I don't know, and plus I'm very curious about Africa. I want to know Africa, being the continent that it is, so full and resourceful, not only with the people, the culture, the food, the natural resources. Why was it so plundered? What is so anyway, so that's why these stories appeal to me. And I'm so grateful for all these people who take their time to travel and just come up with these, using their imagination to bring us these type of stories. So anyways, the Book of Negroes. When Aminata Jallow sits down to pen the story of her life in London, England, at the dawn of the 19th century, she has a wealth of experience behind her. Abducted at the age of 11 from her village in West Africa and forced to walk for months to the sea, Aminata is sent to live as a slave in South Carolina. Years later, she forgets her way to freedom and registers her name in the Book of Negroes, a historic ledger allowing 3,000 black loyalists passage on ships sailing from Manhattan to Nova Scotia. This spellbinding epic transports the reader from an African village to a plantation in the southern United States, from a soured refuge in Nova Scotia to the coast of Sierra Leone, in a back to Africa odyssey of 1,200 former slaves. In the Book of Negroes, Lawrence Hill transforms the neglected corners of history into a brilliantly imagined novel, already a Canadian classic that has been embraced throughout the world. I love this book because one, Lawrence Hill is Canadian, plus, the story just tells you everything. So, a classic. I love that book. Next, I actually have 1,000 Splendid Suns by Khaled Hosseini. But the first book that I read by him was The Kite Runner. Now, The Kite Runner was a story about two boys. Man, oh boy, that story had me crying. I don't know if y'all remember the story of, what is it called? Slumdog Millionaire. Yo, put it in the comment if you reacted the same way at the same scene. Remember when Latika, I think it was Latika, and what's his name? I'll get my husband to put his name. When they finally, after being separated, they were kids, and then they were in the train, and then Latika was left behind, and the boy just traveled, and they go through like so many trials and tribulations, and then they meet when they're grown up, and when they run to each other. You guys have goosebumps. Did y'all cry? Like, I have tears, like that scene. Oh my god. So that just reminds me of the book of The Kite Runner. Okay, so please guys, read the synopsis, okay? But if you haven't read the book The Kite Runner by Khaled Hosseini, you need to read it. But let's talk about 1,000 Splendid Suns. This story made me cry like you have no idea. I'm just gonna tell you this before I even read the synopsis. The first scene that comes to me, and I think I talked about it when I did my introduction, the newbie introduction there. It is at some point when the husband comes home and the woman cooks her food. And obviously she's very submissive because the man was very mean and very like physical abusive. Like he was physically abusive. And at some point she gives him the food, I think rice or something, and then he gets angry and he like throws the food, and what he does, he gives her pebbles and tells her to chew on pebbles, and you can hear her teeth crack. Yo, I'm stopping there. But this book was so emotional. I'm telling you, if you have not picked it up, please read this book. You will not regret it. I promise you. And then 2 more to go. I have The Help. Y'all know The Help. Y'all probably watched the movie with Viola Davis. I enjoy this book. It's The Help by Catherine Stockett. And it is, Abilene is a black maid in 1962 Jackson, Mississippi, raising her 17th white child. He's always taken orders quietly, but lately it leaves her with a bitterness she can no longer bite back. Her friend Minnie has certainly never held her tongue or held on to a job for very long, but now she's working for a newcomer with secrets that leave her speechless. And white socialite Skeeter has just returned from college with ambition and a degree, but to her mother's lament, no husband. Normally, Skeeter would find solace in Constantine, the beloved maid who raised her, but Constantine has inexplicably disappeared. Together, these seemingly different women joined to work on a project that could forever alter their destinies and the life of a small town. To write in secret a tell-all book about what it's really like to work as a black maid in the white homes of the South. Despite the terrible risks they will have to take and the sometimes humorous boundaries they will have to cross, these three women unite with one intention: hope for a better day. I'm reminded when I was following Viola Davis' story when she talked about doing the help, and she talked about how they have counseling on stage to help people navigate those kind of stories because it could be triggering, right? So I remember, what's the girl, the redhead girl? She was the main white actress. What's her name? She did La La Land. If you haven't read the book, read the book. I still have that, man. I bought this book like a long time ago. What I write here? Because usually I leave something in my book, but I didn't write anything. And lastly, I've read a couple books by Isabel Allende. Let me just look at the list of her books here. Oh my god, this is so old. I wrote something in my book here, as you can see. I wrote a verse from the Bible. Fais de l'Éternel tes délices et il te donnera ce que ton cœur désire. Psalm 37. So read it. I don't know. So it's Island Beneath the Sea. I know it has to do with Haiti and the slave revolts in Haiti. So let's see. From the sugar plantation of Saint-Domingue to the lavish parlors of New Orleans at the turn of the 19th century, Isabel Allende's exhilarating and utterly compelling new novel introduces an unforgettable woman, a slave and concubine determined to claim her own destiny against impossible odds. Born on the island of Saint-Domingue, Zarite, known as Tete, is the daughter of an African mother she never knew and one of the white sailors who brought her into bondage. Though her childhood is one of brutality and fear, Tete finds solace in the traditional rhythms of African drums and the voodoo laws she discovers through her fellow slaves. When 20-year-old Toulouse Valmorin arrives on the island in 1770, it is with powdered wigs in his trunks and dreams of financial success in his mind. But running his father's plantation, Saint-Lazare, is neither glamorous nor easy. Although Valmorin purchases young Tete for his bride, it is he who will become dependent on the services of his teenaged slave. Against the merciless backdrop of sugarcane fields, the lives of Tete and Valmorin grow ever more intertwined. When the bloody revolution of Toussaint Louverture, I thought I discovered, look at that, I knew of Toussaint Louverture way, from way back when, and I just didn't pay attention. Of Toussaint Louverture arrives at the gates of Saint-Lazare, the pair flees the brutal conditions of the French colony that will become Haiti for the raucous, freewheeling enterprise of New Orleans. There, Tete finally forges a new life, but her connection to Valmorin is deeper than anyone knows and not easily severed. With an impressive richness of detail and narrative wit and brio second to none, Allende crafts the riveting story of one woman's determination to find love and loss, to offer humanity though her own has been so battered, and to forge her own identity in the cruelest of circumstances. Yes. I mean, what else can I say, y'all? What else can I say? All right, you guys. So those are the books that are my all-time favorite so far. And I hope that at the end of the year, I will compile another collection of books that will be my all-time favorites for sure. But anyways, you guys, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope I can hear from you guys. If you've read any of these books, what were your feelings? Which one stayed with you? Let's share whatever scenes that you can remember when and how long ago y'all read these books. Just let's chat, jump on the comments. With that said, let me leave you here. I hope you guys will be well, and I will see you in my next video. So please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share. Ciao! See you in my next video. Bye!